And my name is Kristen Chan. I'm the Child Hunger Specialist with the Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty here in North Texas. And I also serve as the coordinator for our council. So just some housekeeping items before we get started. We ask that all the people here that please remain on mute so that we can hear from our speakers and our background noises. And if you have any questions, feel free to just type them out in the chat box and we'll get to them at our Q&A sessions as well. And also, if you have any helpful information like we talked about earlier, feel free to share them in the chat box so we can get to them and share with other members as well. And also this meeting will be recorded, and the link to the recording, all the PowerPoint slides and all the resources that we talk about today will be emailed to you after the meeting. So if you want, please put your name and organization in the chat box so we know who joined us today. Now we're going to talk about today's agenda. We'll share a little bit about what we have learned this past year, some achievement and gaps that you have experienced. And also we'll open up the floor to kind of share what are some things that we experience, maybe for summer meals or some other programs that your organizations might have. And then we'll have some of our leadership team members to talk a little bit about how they have been providing their service to the community at this time, how they manage the supply chain issues. And also we will talk a little bit about the Facebook job posting resource that our Houston team created. And at the end of the meeting, we'll also talk about some ways of how you can involve more with the council, and also we will share the application on applying for our leadership team position as well. Okay. So to kick us off, we want to hear something that you have experienced this past year. So we're going to spend just a couple of minutes to talk about the questions. And for those of you join us later, so I'm going to share those two links in the chat box. If you guys can just go to the links to just spend a few minutes to go over the questions and then type out your response, and we'll get back together as a group to talk about. I see some responses coming in. So who wants to like share a little bit about their response on some like of the success that you've been seeing at this time? So I see that. I think that like the waivers are helpful. That's awesome. Being able to serve like grab and go meals. Great. So I think like the waivers were awesome, like especially like for summer meals for sure. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this information because our leadership team has been talking about just building like a best practice guide. So this would also be helpful that we can put all the information together. So really good. If no one wants to share a little bit about what they put, we'll just move on to the next item. Here again is the link that we can share our holiday hours and services as well. I'll put it in the chat box again, since we have some participants just join us. So this is like you can do like throughout the meeting or like even after the meeting as well. So next we'll have Jennifer Miller, Director of Nutrition and Menu Operations from Garland ISD, and Julie Factor, Director of Support Service from Dallas ISD. They will talk a little bit about how they have been managing the supply chain issues at their schools. So now I will turn it over to Julie and Jennifer.
Jennifer, would you like to start? Yeah, you're on mute though.
That would be helpful. Again, I'm Jennifer Miller. I'm the Director of Student Nutrition for Garland ISD. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the supply chain issues I've been having. I know Julie and I have somewhat similar stories, but I was just making some notes earlier about what I thought was important and maybe what could be takeaways for someone else. So I think the main thing before I get into the issues that we're having, but one of the main things I think that has been helpful in getting us through is communication. So I've been very open with the leadership of the district about what is going on, specifically my boss. Also, we put a thing on social media for all of our accounts saying, hey, supply chain issues, just FYI. And we sent out a memo in what's called the WAPE. It's the thing that goes to the district.
How about yourself?
And administrators. to really
Oh,
get
thanks.
ahead of
Yeah, quite
any
unexpected.
Okay, thank you. To really get ahead of any issues so that before people started asking questions, that maybe we could, kind of preempt that. And we really did do that fairly recently because in the back of the house, things have been crazy, but it hasn't been quite as forward facing in actual cafeterias as it's starting to be. So that was just done, but I've had very few complaints or questions or anything about some of the weird modifications that we've had to make. So to discuss that, more in depth is just to be flexible. I think that flexibility has been the main thing for us. We've had a lot of issues, particularly in the commodity beef category. I know Julie is experiencing some of these too. It's particularly, and also a random thing of one of our suppliers can't get gas, which is used to make the IW items. They have to put gas in the plastic. I thought the plastic would be the problem, but I guess it's really been sourcing the gas. So when you talk about supply chain, it's fascinating to see all the different components of it, the random things. Yeah, you may have the beef, you may have the biscuits, you may have the plastic, but you can't make it because you don't have something like that. So that has been really interesting to me, as well as I'm thankful that we do. I think our BIC has been hit hard. That is the menu that is having to repeat. So I'm thankful, and I think another lesson to learn for other people is it's great to have several different vendors that you can go to, because if one can't supply this, well, then maybe we're gonna. So for example, we were using a beef sausage that we can't get. So now we're switching to a chicken sausage that we had, but we weren't really planning on using. So again, it's just flexibilities like that. And another thing that's been hampering us is procurement delays, only because of all the price increases. So when you get pretty much every vendor we have has requested a price increase for every item. So when that comes through, it's got to go through a whole nother department to get approved. And, nothing happens speedily. So that sets what are very extensive lead times back even further. So it's just, coping with that. Those, I think, have been kind of our three main issues. Julie.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I echo all that, of course, too, but some of the things that we've been doing for our district to cope with all this is, of course, communicating with vendors on a daily basis, more than one time a day. We've had to be flexible. We've had to actually go and pick up, a distribution company did not have drivers to bring it the last mile. So we had to drive to David Lewis's side of town over there in Arlington one day and go pick up some paper goods and stuff. So we've had to be a little flexible with that. That's not something we've normally done.
That's where my paper went.
We got it first. But we're flexible with the warehouse hours too for the deliveries. Normally we have this set schedule, and it's somebody can't get here until 2 o'clock. Well, then we're going to stay and we're going to pick, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So the warehouse guys have pulled some 12-hour shifts to make sure that we're receiving the product when it's able to be shipped here, because Arlington might get it then.
Can't have that.
We've had the biggest challenge that we had to overcome in Dallas, which actually turned out to be not that big of a deal, but the district has in board policy that only the board and the superintendent can call an emergency to allow for emergency purchases. Well, we have USDA approval to do emergency purchases. We have TDA's approval to do emergency purchases, but everybody was kind of leery of asking the district, asking the Board of Trustees to waive their board policy for, so we could buy through emergency purchases, which means basically we just have to document that we weren't able to get it through our regular methods, and we try other vendors, and when we can find products, we are able then to buy it. So we got that through the board with no discussion, and they were happy to do it. So that has really helped because we've been able to explore other co-ops. We've joined other co-ops and been able to explore independent companies that aren't even in a co-op, but hey, they've got some napkins, because one week it was napkins that we're short on. Well, great, we can buy it through this company that we've never done business with, but now we have this ability to do that. And that has been a huge help to us. Of course, the price changes, it's multiple vendors still, even now, we're getting multiple vendors multiple times a day saying we have to go up on pricing and the justification and all. So one of the things we had to do this last spring, because we had just put out a paper goods bid, it had just gone to the board in like March. In April, we started getting price increases that people couldn't hold the price that they had just bid on paper goods. So we rebid paper, some items in like July or whatever. We just got those results back last month, and we're going through them. But we had vendors saying, can we just do a 90-day
Yes.
quote for you instead of the 1 year that is our normal bid, whatever. So we're looking at this next year for this. We have some of our major bids that go out. It's year one again for them, like our commodity foods and our commercials. So we're looking at, do we just rebid it every 6 months this next year? Or what do we do? What can we do differently so we don't get bombarded with price increases all the time? Because everybody's crystal ball is not clear, and so we don't know what's going to happen next year. So we're looking at, do we need to modify our bids for this next year to accommodate the chaos that's in the system right now? So those are some of the things that we're doing at Dallas ISD now, to cope with everything, and then also in the future for how we can be a good customer to the industry and still not get bombarded with price increases. So that's from Dallas right now. Kristen, do you want to open it up for questions?
Sure. Thank you very much for sharing, Julie and Jennifer. Is there any questions that we have? Feel free to type it out in the chat box as well. Or you can just unmute yourself and just ask the question.
Hey y'all, this is Ty with City Square. How have y'all gone about finding alternate vendors? Are you having to put out requests, or are you able to search and find them?
So I think Julie is a better person really to ask about that or to answer that, because I haven't found alternate vendors that have product. So we have been able to get a few emergency items like from A Smart or something like that, but not near in the volume that we require. So we've been able to make it work. We've moved down, so if we award you on the bid, but you can't do it, so maybe we'll move down to the next guy. Can the next guy do it? Luckily, they had a source from Mexico and we're good. So we've been somewhat fortunate in that when we have looked at it, that hasn't really worked out for us.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we asked the board to approve joining about 20 other co-ops, is to expand the potential vendor list. So that's helping. When they're completely out of something like hamburgers, of course, we're just doing something else, going to Sloppy Joe or something. But we've had people, when they've seen the communication go out that we've sent out, you know, through the local media or whatever, we've had people contact us and say, oh, I can get you plates. I can probably get a truckload of plates or whatever. I'm putting together some truckloads. So we added that company as a vendor and did it through emergency purchase. I will tell you a cute story, a nice community story. The first time we notified the community through local media that we were going to be a little short on some cutlery, so we were changing some days to be just finger foods. I had a pastor call me, and he had talked with he had a coalition of like 12 churches, and they had talked. And since they weren't in person, this was like in August, since they weren't meeting in person, that everybody had some cutlery in their kitchens, the plastic cutlery. And so he gathered up like 5 or 6 little boxes, but it was enough to help 2 of our schools get through another couple weeks. So, I mean, it's been wonderful to see the community understand and appreciate and even try to help out what we're going through.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
That's awesome. Any other questions? Okay. If not, we will move on to the next speaker. Next, we'll have Ty Yancey, Senior Manager of Food Programs at City Square, and Brianna Fleming, Child Nutrition Program Manager from City Square. They will share a little bit about how they have been providing the last mile service to the community. So now I'll turn it over to Ty and Brianna.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've ever screen shared with Zoom. So I'm going to be one of those people that says, can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So again, my name is Ty Yance. I am Senior Manager of Food Programs at City Square. And I think at least that I mentioned earlier, but if you weren't on for the networking, we operate CACFP at risk after school meals and SFSP summer meals. And in the summer, we operate both our traditional partner programs as well as our mobile meals program. And that's the perfect time for Bree to introduce herself.
Yes, thank you, Ty. Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna, but as Ty just said, you may call me Bree. I'm the Child Nutrition Program Manager, and I oversee everything mobile that happens here at City Square. So our mobile meals program and a new program that we piloted this fall that I'll tell you about a little later.
Awesome, thank you. So the schools, Jennifer and Julie did a great job talking about what things have been challenges and ways to navigate the challenges for the ISDs. But I wanted to bring up some tips for those of us who are non-school sponsors of child nutrition programs. Just so everyone knows and has the resources they need. And I do have a link slide at the end of this where you can access some of these things, but I got some of this information was tips from our vendor based on their experiences, the issues that they've had and how they've worked with the sponsors that they vend meals for. And I also found a lot of great resources from the No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices. So if you need more information about these things, I definitely recommend checking there. And the first tip is, as has been mentioned, communicate as much as possible with your suppliers and the recipients. The No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices, again, there's a link at the end of this, has provided some templates for ways to communicate about supply issues in every format, from blurb on your menus to social media to direct contact via email or phone. And they are some really awesome templates, and anything that can save us a step is always a good thing. So I definitely recommend those. In the process of communicating frequently, it is best to try and forecast your needs and order ahead as early as possible. I know that making projections about what's going to happen next has been more difficult in the past couple of years than ever before. But the best projections you provide as far out as possible are going to be very beneficial to your suppliers, your vendors, as well as to the folks you're serving. As Julie mentioned, if you are proactive in asking your suppliers about what their needs are, what their gaps are, then that can help you get access to things that you might not have earlier. You might not have otherwise. Like Julie said, picking up your deliveries, or getting your deliveries at times that are different than what you would usually do or what are best. But if you cooperate and help your distributors, your vendors meet their needs, then it's going to be easier for them to meet your needs. And of course, I'm sure we've all heard from folks who are confused about, why something's different on the menu. If you ever do a monitoring visit, we have to keep track of that and make sure we're staying in compliance. So informing your sites, the kids and families you're serving about the possible changes. And again, I really like the communication templates from No Kid Hungry will help everyone know what to expect. And then there are two different sides to this, but modifying the menu might be necessary. As the ISDs are experiencing, a lot of the times you may be having to change what you were going to serve to adapt to the supply chain issues. And that may mean totally changing it, or it may be taking something off the menu. So it depends, of course, on what situation you're really experiencing, but either limiting the options that you may have available, and of course, unfortunately, maybe reducing the amount of variety you have in your menus may be your best option, or being flexible and willing to change out some of the items on your menu, having lots of options available that meet the same requirements, and being willing to make those adaptations might be a better option, as opposed to limiting what you can provide. It all just depends on what issues you're facing. So one thing that we have experience with at City Square is getting the meals that we're serving through the last mile. So to the final step of the delivery chain process, to where the end user is actually accessing the meals. So that last leg of the journey is often called the last mile. It's where you're going from wherever your hub, your warehouse, your distributor, your main campus, to the actual user. So I think one way we often see this in our sphere is how food banks use a hub and spoke model. They're the central resource, but then by getting it out to food pantries, then the food pantries have an easier, more direct access to participants. We started our City Square Food mobile summer meals program, started a partnership with the North Texas Food Bank last summer after the food bank was not able to operate the SFSP and CACFP sites like they had before. And so they lost their access to the end user. So we were able to step in and say, well, we still have access to the end user. And we partnered with the food bank to help them distribute the products that they had been getting out to kids for years. But those kids they no longer had access to. And just a note, these pictures are examples of the USPS's last mile, and The post office is a public service, so they have to deliver to everyone. FedEx, UPS, or other delivery services, all their only obligation is to the profit that their companies are making. So they don't have to take a mule train or get on a boat and make those deliveries directly to the end user, to the recipient. And that mailman in the picture who's on the boat is actually in Alabama, where part of where my grandparents are from. That's in Magnolia Springs, Alabama, and that's where a lot of my extended family is located around that area. So I was really excited to find that little blurb about last mile deliveries from the post office. But as you can see here, the USPS gets creative with how they're ensuring access to deliveries and mail that people need. And sometimes we need to use creative solutions. We may need to change it up from our traditional partner sites and implement a mobile meals delivery model like we have here. Of course, Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty had a great example of this in their partnership with the USDA with the Meals to You program. And they really were in that partnership getting meals that kids wouldn't otherwise have access to that very last mile directly to their mailboxes. Such a cool program. And of course, mostly rural. It's focused on rural areas, so not as applicable to those of us in the great big city areas of DFW. But it is like the perfect example of the last mile in child nutrition. And then from my perspective, I think that there are also simple solutions that eliminate the need to overcome the obstacles that come with the last mile. Things like pandemic EBT, summer EBT, SNAP, and WIC. We're getting the resources directly to families, giving them the purchasing power so no one has to get anything to them. They're able to do what works best for them and get the things that they need wherever they need to get them from. As I mentioned, we had partnered with the food bank starting last year, and I really think that partnerships are the key to getting meals or resources the last mile to the recipients and participants. So some examples of some really great partnerships that happened because of the pandemic, and that really solved the problem of getting things, getting past the delivery supply chain issues and all the logistics to the user. DoorDash and United Way partnered to create Project Dash and Ride United, where rideshare meal delivery service drivers were able to get food pantry items and other things delivered directly to people's doors. Like I mentioned, the Meals to You program. Here in Dallas, Amazon Flex partnered with the North Texas Food Bank and two of their partner organizations, Crossroads Community Services and Sharing Life, to deliver food pantry items. And then you'll hear Bree talk later about how we've partnered with other folks to get things directly to people's doors. So this is part of that creativity that's needed when you're facing the obstacles of getting things directly to the participant all the way that last mile. Sometimes, a lot of times, we don't necessarily have all the resources that we need to add that additional service, but finding a great partner who does have existing infrastructure to help us meet those needs is oftentimes the best solution. Okay, Bree.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ty. So as you all know, here at City Square, we're always trying to find creative solutions to fight poverty and ways in which we can really stretch that last mile and really reach our neighbors. As our CEO always says, if there's neighbors still living in poverty, there's still so much more work to be done, even with the enormous amount of work that we've already done and neighbors that we've reached. So with all of that being said, around this time last year, which is crazy to think that it's almost been a year now, I saw that there is still this need that we just weren't meeting. And kind of like Ty just said, we have the existing infrastructure and the resources to support our neighbors who don't have access to our brick and mortar pantry here at City Square. And so, really looking at the current models that have been successful here at City Square and kind of the resources that we have, that is the ideal, that is how the mobile pantry ideal came about. And it actually just launched this fall in September, which is super exciting. So what exactly is mobile pantry? So like I said, mobile pantry is an ideal I thought of last year around this time. I got enormous support of the ideal and people just really rallying behind it. And it's a combination really of two successful programs that we have at City Square, which is our summer mobile meals, which I'll talk a little bit more about, and then our pantry model. I figured if we could combine these and have people going out using our vans and our technology to deliver these meals to our neighbors' doorsteps, then we're really going that last mile for people who can't come to our pantry here at City Square. So we have 3 target areas, and this is just based off of data that we've had at the pantry. And we also partnered with Toyota, and they're the ones who are actually funding our first year of mobile pantry. And these target areas are Vickery Meadow, South Dallas, West Dallas. Neighbors who live in these areas were allowed to register, and based on their income and number of household, and also making sure that they're in those zip codes, they were offered to be a part of the pilot program of mobile pantry. It is ran by our AmeriCorps members, which is that resource that we're super grateful for. And they're the ones that go out Monday through Friday between 12 and 4 p.m. to deliver the pantry goods that they would receive if they came to the pantry. So the exact same goods, but just to their doorstep. As I said earlier, we're thankful for that partnership that we have with Toyota. It's specifically with the social mobility innovation team. So this falls exactly under their scope of things that they do on that team. And the whole theme of this conversation is eliminating the last mile, and mobile pantry really allows us to go that extra step. Kind of as Jennifer Craig was saying earlier, sometimes there's always small components that create that last mile barrier. And for mobile pantry, those small components for us are, someone may not have the transportation to come to the City Square. Someone may not have, the monetary resources or even the time. So ideally, this program is catered towards someone who, may be a single mother of 2 that, has adequate transportation, but she works 2 jobs, so she can't come to our pantry during the time that we're open. And so that's how we're reaching her with mobile pantry and really going that last mile. So speaking of last mile, as you all know, we do operate our summer mobile meals program. It's a program that happens 12 weeks during summer. Our AmeriCorps members are out there feeding children ages 1 through 18 nutritious meals that they're no longer receiving because they're not in school. Typically, these children don't have access to the traditional programs that may actually be in their community. So what we do is we go to their apartment complex or center that they're at and actually meet them in their home so that they don't have to find those traditional programs and resources to get to them, so that they can receive those meals from us. And once again, that's just going that last mile. Of course, there's those traditional programs, but there's still going to be children who just can't make it to them. And so those are, just to kind of wrap it up, those are ways in which, me on the mobile side, I'm always trying to find creative solutions to really use our transportation, our fleet of vans, and our AmeriCorps members to really just stretch that last mile.
Awesome. And as I've mentioned, here's some links with resources. The School Nutrition Association Action Network has an opportunity to share your story about what obstacles you were facing with supply chain issues. And I definitely recommend it. I know they met with officials, I think with the USDA and the federal administration last week to discuss what issues folks are facing in getting things for child nutrition, things to keep our programs working, and USDA is working to provide resources, including funding, although I wasn't able to find specific details on that yet, to help us meet the needs I'm happy to answer any questions if y'all have any. Or if anyone else has a resource that you would like to share, please feel free to do so. And I have to give a huge shout out to all the ISDs and DFW. I mean, y'all have done such an amazing job navigating all these issues. I was in Alabama over the weekend visiting my family, and I have 2 siblings and a couple of in-laws who work within the school district in Mobile, Alabama, which is where I'm from. And they had so much to say about the problems that their school district has had with navigating the pandemic, and being able to say, like, this is what's happening in DFW, and these are all the great things that our ISDs are doing. It was really cool, I have to say. So I was bragging on y'all over the weekend.
Thank you, Ty.
Of course. Let's see. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna end this. There we go.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Is there anyone have any questions? Any questions? Awesome.
Thank y'all so much. And I know Kristen will share the PowerPoint so you can access some of those links. And again, I definitely recommend the No Hungry Center for Best Practices, and of course, Square Meals for more resources.
Thank you. So next we'll have Kirsty from our Houston office. She'll share a little bit about the Facebook job posting resource that they created. Okay, I'll turn it over to Kirsty.
Thank you, Kristen. So my name is Kirsty Nichols. I am the Child Hunger Outreach Specialist in our Southeast Texas region of the Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty. So I am Kristen's counterpart over here in Houston. It's been great hearing from y'all and kind of hearing what the differences and similarities between the 2 regions. The biggest similarity, obviously, is that everyone right now is struggling with procurement issues and staffing. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about the procurement issues, but we have been racking our brains to see any way possible we could help with staffing. And from that, and talking with our local school districts and nonprofits, we found that there is a resource on Facebook that we didn't know about. So we have spent the time learning about it and creating a resource for it. So Facebook, if you don't know, has a job board. It is completely free, and your school can post a job on there. And it just allows more people to see your job posting than just posting it on your Facebook page where only people that follow you see it. So it's really simple to do. I created a really quick resource to kind of take you through the steps of doing it. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. So this is just about the Facebook job board posting and how to do it. It's 4 really easy steps. The only requirement is you do have to have a Facebook business page, which most nutrition departments or nonprofits have anyway. If you don't have one, you can click here and it'll give you more information about it. But when I did it for one of our school districts, it took us less than 5 minutes to post, and we got about 70 applicants. So it's definitely worth it. It is quick to do, easy, and completely free, and just another way to get those job postings out there. And then the second page just tells you a little bit about, once you've created the job, what you can expect. So all of your applicants do come in the Facebook job portal, where you can get resumes, and they also give you phone numbers and email addresses. So sometimes it is kind of a second step. You then have to direct them to your website to get them to apply, but then you have a whole list of phone numbers and emails that you can follow up with. So we know right now staffing is just a huge stressor, and so anything to help. And then at the very bottom, there's just more information here on the Facebook job board itself. It takes you to a Facebook link. So it's just a really quick overview. Again, very simple, completely free. Would highly recommend for anybody having hiring issues, just to get more people to see your job that might not know to even look at your school district or nonprofit. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. Otherwise, Kristen has my contact information, and she said she'll be sharing this resource with your all's follow-up.
Thank you so much, Kirsty, for sharing this. Is there anyone have questions? Yeah, again, like I will share all this like handouts and resources in the follow-up email as well. Next, we'll have our regional director, Catherine, to share a little bit about how you can apply to be our leadership team member. Because I know some of you guys have been very involved in our council, so we'll love to invite you to apply for the leadership team. I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Thank you, Kristen. So we are accepting applications for our leadership team. And so in order to be a leader, part of the leadership team, you need to be a member, an active member of the council. And so happy to see so many people here today from all over. Thank you for taking time to join us. Leadership team requirements include attending a monthly leadership team meeting. It's a 2-year term. So you'll be, decisions will be made in December, and then you will start your term in January. We also love to have a diversity of backgrounds at the table because this is a sponsor-led council. We want your opinions. So we want your thoughts and your brilliance and what you guys do on a daily basis. So please put in an application. Deadline is Monday, December 1st. If you have any questions or concerns, you're welcome to reach out to me. Kristen will be providing a link to the application in a follow-up email post-meeting. But we've had brilliant leaders like Ty and Julie and Jennifer, and we've had Mel and Anna serving currently, and we would love to bring more expertise to the table. So I saw Ashley just chatted a great meeting, and I hope, Ashley, do you have anything to add about leadership team before you pop off, or did you already maybe hop off? No. All right. Well, moving from there, thanks for joining us, guys, and happy holidays, because we actually will probably not meet again before the holiday break. If you ever need anything from us or the leadership team, please don't hesitate to reach out to Kristen, myself, Ashley, any of the presenters today. We would be happy to help answer any questions. And thank you everyone for joining. And I hope you got your lunch. And that's why we're not seeing cameras, because everyone's eating lunch. I'm going to go do that myself. We'll talk to you guys later. Happy holidays. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
To what?